It was a quiet February morning in 2024 when Laken Riley, a 22-year-old nursing student at Augusta University, set out for her usual morning run. The sun was rising over the campus, birds chirped in the trees, and life felt ordinary. She sent a quick text to her mother around 9:03 a.m., a simple, "Good morning," letting her family know she was heading out for her jog. But that would be the last time anyone heard from Laken alive. Laken was known among friends and classmates as vibrant, full of energy, and deeply committed to her studies and future in nursing. She had dreams, routines, and a sense of responsibility that made her a reliable and beloved figure in her community. But that morning, as she jogged through the wooded trails near Oconee Forest Park, tragedy struck. Less than half an hour after leaving her apartment, she would be violently attacked, her life cut brutally short in a place she likely thought of as safe. Within minutes of the attack, Laken's phone automatically dialed 911 at 9:11 a.m., an alarming but incomplete emergency call. Responding officers arrived, but could not immediately locate her. Her roommates, growing worried by mid-morning when she failed to return, contacted authorities, setting off a swift and intense search. The serene campus and surrounding trails became a crime scene, where every footprint, every twig, every clue would be meticulously examined by investigators. The initial crime scene investigation revealed the horrifying nature of what had happened. Laken had been assaulted and killed in a manner so violent that it stunned law enforcement. Medical examiners later confirmed she died from a combination of blunt force trauma to the head and asphyxiation. Signs of a struggle indicated that she had fought desperately to save herself, scratching at her assailant in an attempt to resist. Each detail told a story of courage and horror, of a life ending far too soon. Attention quickly turned to potential suspects. Authorities identified José Antonio Ibarra, a 26-year-old man who lived just a mile from where Laken's body was discovered. Investigators found several incriminating pieces of evidence that would ultimately link him to the crime. Among these were Laken's DNA found under his fingernails and a thumbprint on her phone. Surveillance footage also placed Ibarra near the area, moving suspiciously in the hours surrounding the attack. Items of clothing and gloves containing both Laken's and Ibarra's DNA were recovered from a nearby dumpster, suggesting attempts to discard evidence and conceal his involvement. During questioning, police noted that Ibarra had visible injuries: scratched arms, red knuckles, consistent with a defensive struggle. It became clear that this was not a random act of violence, but a calculated and brutal attack carried out by someone who had observed, followed, and ambushed his victim during a moment of vulnerability. The evidence painted an unambiguous picture. Laken Riley had been targeted and killed by someone known to law enforcement as a stranger, with a proximity advantage and intent to harm. The investigation moved quickly. Law enforcement coordinated with local and state authorities, gathering forensic evidence, security footage, phone records, and witness statements to reconstruct the timeline. It was determined that Laken left her apartment at 9:03 a.m., and the assault occurred within the next half hour along the isolated trail. Investigators meticulously mapped her movements and her assailants, using every available tool to understand what had occurred during those critical minutes. On February 23, 2024, just one day after the attack, José Antonio Ibarra was arrested. Authorities charged him with multiple counts, including murder, felony murder, kidnapping, aggravated assault, hindered 911 call, and even peeping Tom, reflecting previous allegations that he had observed other students in the vicinity earlier that same day. The strength of the forensic evidence, combined with eyewitness accounts and digital tracking, made a compelling case against him. During the ensuing legal proceedings, Ibarra chose to waive his right to a jury trial, opting instead for a bench trial before a judge. The prosecution presented a thorough and undeniable case. DNA and fingerprint evidence, video surveillance, forensic analysis, and witness testimony painted a complete picture of the crime. Defense attempts to challenge the evidence were unsuccessful, and on November 20th, 2024, Ibarra was found guilty on all counts and sentenced to life in prison without parole. Appeals and motions for a new trial were subsequently denied, with the court citing the overwhelming nature of the evidence against him. The Laken Riley case did more than shock a university campus. It captured national attention. News outlets covered every detail, from the timeline of her last known movements to the forensic breakthroughs that led to a swift arrest. Social media amplified public awareness, with hundreds of thousands sharing updates, memorials, and calls for justice. The case became a focal point for conversations about campus safety, stranger assaults, and how quickly moments of normalcy can turn into tragedy. Beyond the immediate criminal justice response, Laken's case also had broader societal implications. In 2025, lawmakers passed the Laken Riley Act, legislation focused on improving detention protocols for certain accused individuals and providing states legal avenues to enforce federal enforcement failures. While controversial, the law reflected how a single tragic incident could catalyze public policy debates and reforms related to crime, safety, and immigration enforcement. For those who knew Laken personally, the pain of loss was compounded by the suddenness and violence of her death. Her family, friends, classmates, and community members were left to grapple with grief, unanswered questions, and the haunting memory of what should have been a simple mourning jog. Vigils, memorials, and online tributes honored her life, keeping her memory alive while emphasizing the human cost behind the statistics. The case also underscored the importance of forensic science and investigative diligence. It highlighted how rapid evidence collection, meticulous crime scene analysis, and the integration of technology like surveillance cameras and phone tracking can solve crimes that, without modern tools, might have remained mysteries. Each small piece, a fingerprint, a hair, a digital footprint, proved critical in bringing justice to a young woman whose life was taken too soon. As we reflect on the Laken Riley case, it is clear that her story is a cautionary tale, a reminder of vulnerability, the unpredictability of violence, and the importance of vigilance in everyday life. But it is also a story of justice, demonstrating how forensic science, determined investigators, and public awareness can come together to hold a perpetrator accountable. Laken's death was a tragedy, but the swift resolution of the case provides a measure of closure, a reaffirmation that even in the darkest circumstances, truth can prevail. Laken Riley's life may have been cut short, but her story continues to resonate. It reminds students, families, and communities to remain aware, to advocate for safety, and to support one another. Her journey, her courage, and her memory inspire ongoing dialogue about crime prevention, campus security, and the human cost of violence. While she went for a morning run, expecting an ordinary day, the lessons from her life and death echo far beyond the trails of Augusta University, compelling society to learn, remember, and act to prevent future tragedies.